Hi, everyone, and welcome to Pop Crime TV's The Outlier podcast. Ooh, today I have a wild one. We are going to dive into the unbelievable real life story behind the podcast, American Hustlers. I love that name. It follows this really twisted journey of two con men who swindled their way through high society. I mean, this sounds kind of like Anna Delvey for a second, with lies, charm, elaborate personas. I mean, sociopaths, I guess. But yeah, they posed as royalty, art dealers, even Ivy Leaguers, all while draining the bank accounts of people that they left in their wake of chaos. But listen to this twist. They were eventually tracked down, not by the police, not by the FBI, but by a citizen detective. And I have that citizen detective joining me today, Tyson Wrensch. He made this his mission to expose these scumbag losers. I mean, and also he was a victim himself. So he just had this relentless pursuit for justice, and he helped stop this massive con. So I'm going to stop talking because you all know I talk too much. I'm going to bring Tyson in right now. Tyson, thank you so much. Thanks for joining me.
No, thanks for having me.
I mean, what a wild story. It's crazy. I mean, so look, I love the title Citizen Detective, but I feel like we could give you something else.
I know.
Right?
My little star.
I feel like it needs something more than citizen detective.
Just call it a pissed off ex-friend. I don't know. It's when you trust somebody for 5 years and you get burned that badly, and then nobody comes to help you. I was just I had these little rose-colored lenses in life, and I was in my went through my late 20s, early 30s, and this happened, and wake up call to reality.
Right. Well, okay, so let's back up. I want you to explain to me, to the audience, how did you first meet these two men, Danny and Kaushal? Am I saying that correctly? Kaushal?
Kaushal.
Kaushal. Okay, thank you. So what did they first present themselves as to you? And yeah, how did you meet them?
Yeah, so well, first I met Danny, and we were part of a big circle of friends here in San Francisco. We just, there is the gayborhood called the Castro, and at 1:30 at night, all of the bars shut down, and we all fled into the streets. And it's still social hour because nobody wants to go home. And at the time, Danny was under 21, so he would hang out waiting for everybody to come out and socialize. But I didn't initially know him, but he was friends with friends, and so just through the circle of socialness and chattiness, and we got to talking, and over the course of many weekends, eventually he filled me in on how he was going to be doing this protest later in the week of a man who had molested him, and the lawyer who was representing that man was married to a representative in the House of Representatives. And so they were basically, it's this big, his lawyer was about to expose it. And on top of that, they were doing it in front of this bar where the man frequented. So it was going to be, doing it in front of all of his friends too. So it was really, just a, and now at the time when I thought this was all real, I was like, oh, that is salacious, and
yeah,
that is twisty. Yeah, it's very catty. So,
sorry to interrupt you. Doesn't it always start with that? Like, I'm about to expose this awful like I've heard that before. Like, we're going to expose this, but yeah, continue.
Right, and being empathetic, like a normal person would be. Sorry.
Really? You're right. No, you're right. Yeah.
Right. So that I joined along. I said, I'll join you in that protest, and that kind of solidified our friendship, and we ended up hanging out more often, and that was it. That was the gist of it, and we just kind of got along more. And he was, he was just very smart. He was about 10 years younger, and I think 9, and he just knew so much. He was very well traveled, very charismatic, and also, not to sound bougie, but San Francisco is not a cheap city to live in. And we were in our, he was under 21 and I was in my late 20s. So, but he was able to keep up. And it's kind of, at that age, a lot of us were living paycheck to paycheck, but I was fortunate enough to have ridden the .com boom. And mind you, we got to go back. We're going back 20 years. So this is pre-iPhone, pre-Facebook, all of the things that, I've had a lot of people who've listened to the podcast say, I can't believe you didn't, we didn't have all of the communication that we did today. So It was much easier to be as stupid as I was.
No, trust me, you're not stupid. I mean, I think every third person might have had MySpace, maybe, but that was even not a thing.
Yeah.
But
that's something that's actually, there's a piece of MySpace in this story, which we can get to later, that was not in the podcast. So I'll share that. We'll spill some tea. Yeah.
Ooh, I love it. Well, let me ask you, so did you ever witness him exposing this politician? Did that ever happen? I'm guessing it did.
Yeah. So
it did.
No. So we did do the protest.
Okay.
It made it into the papers.
Okay.
And I mean, so it happened, right? And and then
they're checking out at this point,
Okay. So we're hanging out, and he eventually did win some settlement. It was in the 7 figures. I never really. The problem was I never really got all of the information, and it wasn't my place to ask either. I wasn't being, that nosy friend. It's his own business. And so, but I do remember once where we went to a really nice dinner to celebrate, and they ordered 2 really expensive bottles of champagne, and then they saved the corks, and they used those. They mailed those corks off to the gentleman that they had accused of this molestation case, who was currently sitting in jail. That they had.
That's a level of petty I appreciate. To be perfectly honest with you, if these weren't 2 con men, I'd be like, I'm fine with that.
Right. And again, being the catty person that I can also be, I was all in.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, this is 50 Cent level petty. I'm okay with it. Yeah. No, that's good. So, okay. At what point, Tyson, did you discover something was off here?
So I was basically on a 4-week vacation, if you will. I'd taken a severance package from my job in Munich and moved back to the States. And of course, first person I called was Danny. My best friend, told him about my windfall and how I was coming back to San Francisco to pick up my car, and I was I had a second home in Vegas, so I was gonna start a new life in Vegas, and why not, right?
Yeah.
It was a fun place to be at the time.
Sure. Yes. Why not?
I was at the right age. Now I'm a homebody, but back then it was like, let's go out. And so I picked up my car here, picked up Danny. We went on a road trip, and we went to Vegas, and we stopped in West Hollywood, of course, and had a lot of fun. And then to Vegas, and have some more fun in Vegas. And then I went to South America for a month, and Danny flew back to San Francisco. And so I was 3 weeks into my trip. Again, no smartphones. So we had internet cafes. So I was off the grid. I said, I've been in the tech industry for 10 years. I want a computer-free life for just a month.
Right.
So 3 weeks into my trip, I go on to an internet cafe in Rio de Janeiro, and I, log in to pay my credit cards, because the one thing you got to do is pay the credit cards. And I have no money in my bank accounts. Not only do I have a zero balance, but the credit cards that I left at home are charged up. And
chills. Oh no,
yeah.
I have chills. Oh my gosh, you must have
Yep.
peed your pants. Oh my gosh, worse. Yeah.
Yeah, and to get into nitty gritty, I actually was in denial. I went back to the friends that I was with, and I thought, do banks show you a zero balance because you're in another country and they're just trying to protect you? And they all looked at me and they're like, Tyson, go back to the internet cafe and figure your shit out, because that's not what happens.
Yeah,
and so
yeah. I get that. I think I would have been like, well, it's probably, I think I would have said something along the same lines there, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, and so I called the bank. The bank was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, I've been on a ship for 2 of these 3 weeks. I'm not even in the country." And they're like, "There've been withdrawals over over 3 different states for the last 3 weeks, like 2 days after I left." And it was a very meticulous way of doing it. I also I had a $300 withdrawal limit, and they were pulling out 4,000 a day. And like, how do you raise my withdrawal limit? Like, there's so many questions. So I couldn't sleep that night. I got up in the morning, went to the airport. I showed them all the things, the printouts. I said, I have no money. My credit cards are all locked. I need to get home, but my flight's not for another week. And again, we're going back 20 years, back to the days when United and all the other airlines were so friendly.
Yeah.
It was the friendly guys, and they were like, "Sweetie, we will get you home." And they put me on a flight back, and
I'm so surprised. Is that how amazing it was then? I kind of forgot.
I know, those were the days, right? It wasn't like, oh, it's going to be a $5,000 change fee, right?
Right. Or yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow, that's so amazing. So they sent you home back, and at this point you were in where did you Vegas? You said you were.
Yes. So I flew home to Vegas unannounced, and when I got to Denver to change planes, I called my realtor, and I said, you need to come pick me up and bring your gun, because I don't know what's going on. But I know that if the credit cards in my house have been used, then someone's been in my house. So he picked me up, and we rolled up to my house, and everything looked normal. I peeked in the garage. I kind of parked my car at a funny angle, and it was the same spot. So we opened the door, and the door's locked, and I go in, and the first thing I notice on the formal dining room table is a giant pile of cocaine. And
You're like, oh, well, what's his face? Yeah, Tony.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was like, okay, is somebody going to say hello to my little friend here or what?
Exactly. God, jeez.
So then I noticed, like, okay, there's pizza boxes everywhere. There's other furniture in this house. I go into my bedroom, and there's somebody else's clothes in the closet. And that's when I kind of freak out, like, wait a minute, why are my clothes not in my closet? And then I look down, and I see this bright white Toomey roller bag. And that is very specifically was Danny's suitcase. And, you just sort of go, like, WTF is that doing here? And I flip it open, and inside are all of the ATM withdrawal receipts, and you just from going into the bank making withdrawals, and the credit card charge receipts. Like he kept the evidence.
Idiot. Yeah.
But he also didn't know I was coming home a week early either. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of like, okay. So I just want to. This is what I'm picturing. This. So his stuff was in your closet, but it's not like he moved your stuff out of the way. He actually took your stuff out of the closet.
Yeah, it was in the guest room.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's so weird, yeah. So and a lot of this is kind of in the podcast. So I'll in case people are like, God, I've already heard this, but
no. Yeah.
So then I call the police, right? And they're like, okay, so now mind you, also by the time I got back, Wells Fargo has now put the money back into my account provisionally, right? So I can pay my credit card and that, bill pays and nothing bounces. But I can't make any withdrawals from it because they're doing an investigation. And so when I call the police, they're like, so the bank gave you your money back, right? I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, and nothing's missing from your house. I said, yeah. They're like, okay, well, then you're not a victim. And the bank is the victim. And technically you had squatters. And so it's not a crime. And so the bank needs to file a police report. And so I'm like, again, WTF, right? It's kind of it's probably what we can probably call this
podcast. No, literally, this is not. I mean, listen, I get where they're coming from. I get that there's laws around this, but I mean, these laws, they're not black and white. There should be a gray area because this doesn't really make sense. But I understand, and as the person this happened to. Yeah.
To this day, I actually looked up on the, I live in San Francisco. I looked up on the San Francisco PD website. Yeah. And on the police department's website, on their financial crimes website, there's actually a section that says that if you're a victim of this financial crime and you've been made whole, that they will not assign an investigator, but they'll take a report to for statistical purposes, but they won't assign an investigator. So, this is part of why I'm doing this, right? Is because this is a problem. Yeah. And because, when you have something like this happen to you, you are a victim, and this needs to change.
100%. And now I'm sitting here, I'm wondering, you're doing all this, you're getting your money back and you're paying your bills. Concurrently, you're calling Danny? I'm assuming you're texting.
That was my first call. My first call. So and I called him from the home line. Remember back when we used to have home lines?
Yes.
So I'm taking us way back. So I called him from the home line on his cell phone, so he would know that there was a call coming from within the house. And so he answers with a hello. And I said, "Hey, Danny," and he says, "Are you home?" And I said, "I am." And you have
sorry. sorry.
Okay, I think it was like an oh shit. And I said, "Yeah, and you've got some explaining to do." And he goes, I can explain everything. I will. I'll call you right back. I'm at a business lunch. And that is the last time I heard from him.
I was just about to say. So then, next thing you know, he's gone.
Yeah, he's gone, and then so I still know what to do. So now that we get to the MySpace story, so I go up to the office and I log onto my computer to go to MySpace because Danny and I at that time were each other's number one MySpace friends. Remember, you could have top 10 friends, so we were each other's number one friends. God, that was so dramatic. That caused so much drama, but. We were each other's number one friends. So I go log on to MySpace and we're no longer friends on MySpace. But there is a message from somebody I don't know. And it's this guy named Ryan who messages me, says, "I see you and Danny are no longer friends on here. So did he rip you off too?" And I literally fell off my chair. Fell off my chair and just laid in the fetal position for probably a half an hour, wondering what was going on. What the hell happened? What the hell's happening?
What an invasion! Oh my gosh, of your trust, of your friendship. I mean, I'm so sorry. That must have been just an awful, awful time.
Yeah. Well, and to make things worse, so now my instinct is, okay, now I need to call all of our friends and say, holy shit, you guys need to look out for this guy. And no one answers my calls. And so I can't get a hold of anybody. No one's returning my calls. So, and I'm here in Vegas. Now, all of our circle is over in San Francisco. So it's not like I can go run over to their homes or anything. So I'm kind of I was stuck in the desert, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so now I'm trying to figure out what to do. Well, I go out to my car and I notice there's some damage to the front of my car. So I'm like, oh shit, he actually did take my car. But I just bought a brand new car, and it had, I'm a gadget guy, and it had this really fancy GPS system. And I started playing around with it, and I saw that I could backtrack its history.
Hell
So
yeah.
I said, let's roll. So I started taking it back to all of its previous addresses, and I tracked down this 17-year-old kid who said, basically, yeah, I was in that car with a Tyson, but it wasn't you. And he asked to see my ID, and he looked at my ID and he goes, this is weird. I saw this same ID, but with a different photo. And yeah, right. So now I'm like, okay, it hits me.
No.
This is how he does it, right? He has fake ID.
Yep.
And so now I drag this kid to the police department, and now I can get a report because I've got, somebody who, because he wined and dined him on my credit card, right? So here's a 17-year-old who he's taking out to restaurants, dining with, getting liquor.
Yeah. I know.
And,
my
and
gosh.
mind you, he is banging him in my bed, as me. So this could have gotten this could have gotten bad.
That is crazy because the kid was 17. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Wait, that's really twisted. That's so twisted. Oh my gosh. You must have been freaking at that point. Yeah.
Right. Because oh God, this
you don't need that. Don't need to be.
I don't need this.
Don't need to be on the registry there. Yeah.
Right. No, I got other lists that I'd prefer to be on.
Yeah, and you've got other things to worry about at this point. So okay, so now the police are like, all right, we got this.
Yeah. So what I get is a $25,000 non-extraditable warrant. And for those of you watching that don't know what that means, it means that he's got to commit another crime within the city of Las Vegas in order to get hauled in on that. So if I find out he's in Vegas and I can't call, Vegas Metro PD and say, hey, he's at Caesar's Palace in, room 21, go get him.
Yeah.
He's got to, get in a fight, at a bar and then get hauled in. So basically it's worthless, but it would come in handy later. So we'll put a tack in that.
Okay, put a pin in
it. Yeah. So anyway, but again, still nothing can be done. And but I'm still, going after. I go back to the bank, right? The robbery investigation team for Nevada, and I'm like, so where are we at? Where are we at, right? And they have me look at their surveillance photos, and I'm signing them that yep, that's him, and they leave me in a room with a stack of photos this big, and I'm just signing them, and there's a few duplicates, right? So I might have taken one, and so I'll probably go to jail for this, but we'll see. Sorry, Wells Fargo. But I actually needed that, because what I did was I took that photo and showed that to all of my friends to basically say, look, guys, he's bad news. And finally somebody called me and said, okay, we heard a different story. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And Danny had gotten to all of them before I did. And so because I was in my 20s and had ridden the dot-com boom, I had, bought a nice house in San Francisco. And part of my job at Intel at that time was we were driving the consumer marketing, and we were driving the whole work from home concept at that time. Okay. And so I worked from home, and so I was always out and about, so basically Danny's story was the reason I was in South America for a month was I was one of San Francisco's biggest drug dealers, and I was running from the DEA. So if you answered my call, you would be part of the investigation. And so nobody wanted to talk to me because here I was like, of course, here's this 20-year-old, 20-something kid with a 7-figure home, in Noe Valley. And, all he did was drive around and hang out in the neighborhood. Of course he was a drug dealer. It was like, weeds.
Wow. Wait, my mind is blown. So that's why they didn't answer your call. Listen,
Yep.
I don't think I'm an idiot, but I would believe it. I would buy it.
I would believe it because I did believe it, because he did it to me with other people, because he would tell me, hey, you know what? Bill ripped me off. Don't talk to him. And I would block, right? So I alienated people that he had ripped off. I mean, they assembly lined these cons. And
isn't that your 20s though? And even unfortunately part of my 30s where I just didn't do my own research. I would just say, oh, I trust you.
Right.
Let me just say, let me just be on your side because you're my friend, and not do any further digging. It sucks, but looking back, we were young.
Yep. Yeah. And so anyway, that photo basically saved me, and eventually it ran Danny out of San Francisco. And then I chased him into Sacramento. And so, I would hang up signs in the neighborhood of Sacramento. And I would even, it was funny because I would misspell their names so they wouldn't think it was me. And I found out later when I got some of their text messages and stuff in Discovery that they were like, it can't be Tyson. He misspelled our names. And so I was
my gosh. And it's like, they thought they were so smart. So, okay. So let's wrap it up to an extent, just in terms of how you found them and then where we are now. So we can throw them to your podcast.
Right.
Because, I feel like the world is lacking a podcast like this, especially being told by the person that it happened to and the person that actually got these guys.
Yeah. So eventually, and there is in the podcast, you will hear con after con after con after con after con. And
that's why everyone has to listen. We're not scratching the surface. So
I'm not even the most interesting part here. This is
juicy.
So if you're interested now, just wait. Eventually what happens is, I move on with life. We go on, we're talking almost 2 years later, and I get a call again from our big circle of friends, from a friend who basically says, hey, my roommate is dating Danny. And you had said that he was a bad guy, and I don't want to be the roommate that causes some drama in my own house, but do you have anything you can send me that I can give to him that just says, hey, look out, because they're going to Hawaii tomorrow. And I'm afraid if he goes to Hawaii tomorrow, like something bad might happen. Yeah. So I absolutely. So I, send him some stuff, and I just do another little dig, and up comes a story of Kushal being arrested in Marin County for a jewelry theft from a man named Stephen Valentino, who appears in the podcast. And that is a wonderful episode.
Okay.
So hang on for the Stephen Valentino episode.
Yes.
But so they steal about $300,000 of jewelry from.
And I'm sorry, Kushal is just Danny's associate. Is that right?
Yes. So you know what? And I'm sorry, we didn't get to that, and that's why we have to do the podcast, because there's so much that I know.
I understand.
So Kushal, by the way, came to the U.S. as the Prince of Nepal, and it worked. He came on a student visa. You'll hear all about that. In fact, the school that he came to the student visa on, he conned out of so much money, they ended up shutting down the entire university thanks to him.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so
sad. Oh
buckle
my
up, buckle
gosh.
up for that story.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so Kashal is another one. And oh
Yep,
my
and he would stay at the Four Seasons here in San Francisco, and the
Mm.
staff would, if you've ever been to the Four Seasons, the staff knows who you are,
Yeah.
and so when he would come with one of his, marks, future victims, the staff would be, bow and say, "Welcome back, Your Majesty or Your
Yeah.
Highness," and so you're like, "Oh my God, I'm with the prince," right? And we all love us some royalty, so.
Hell yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I mean, gosh. Okay. Okay. So,
Anyway, that's a
yeah.
little backstory on Kushal.
Yeah.
So anyway, but Kushal and had befriended this man. Both Kushal and Danny had befriended this man named Stephen Valentino, and but Kushal had stolen this jewelry, and this thing pops up, and so I contact Stephen Valentino, tell him my story a little bit, and I tell him he doesn't have to tell me anything, but that I've been chasing, Danny and Kushal, and that where does he know? What can he tell me? Where are they now? And he says, I don't know where they are, but I know that a friend of Danny's has gone missing. And I said, what's his name? He says, his name is Cliff, and he's in Palm Springs. And I said, that's all the information he had. So I said, great. So I start, Googling, missing Cliff, Palm Springs. And I'm like, oh, why did this guy have to be named Cliff? Because in Palm Springs, there's a lot of cliffs on that mountain. And there are cars
Just
that
make your
drive off
Google search
cliffs.
that much harder. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
people that fall off cliffs. There's Cliff
Right.
Shadows Retirement Home. There's
Totally get it. Yeah.
too many cliffs in Palm Springs. But I had a little network of internet sleuths that that I reached out to, and a friend of mine in Texas sent me a link, and she goes, check this out. And there was an article about a man in Christmas of 2008 who had not shown up for the Festival of Lights parade with his friends. And it was now February of 2009. So It's been 3 months. And I had read the comments in the sections. People leave stupid comments below, usually, about Obama or Satan or something that, that has nothing to do with the article. But this fourth one down said, the last person I saw him with was a well-dressed Indian male with a British accent. And I'm like, oh my God, that is Kushal. Mm-hmm. So I created a fake name called Stop the Cons. And I said, the people you are looking for are, Kushal Narula, Danny Garcia, and their lawyer, David Replogle. And it's another character that comes into play here. So I send that link out to everybody. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. It's been 2 years, but I think we finally got something going. And the about, I don't know, 2-3 hours later, I get a message back that says, Tyson, what are you talking about? There's nothing there. And when it says like post has been deleted by moderator, that wasn't even there. It was gone. And so I send a message to the webmaster, and I'm like, this website is called helpfindthemissing.org, and I just did, and you just deleted it. Like, WTF?
Right, exactly.
And they actually wrote back right away, and they said, Tyson, we got the biggest legal threat that we've ever received. They were going to shut down, our ISP contacted us and was going to shut the entire website down unless we removed those names. Oh. And I was like, oh, a legal threat? Well, that sounds like David Replogle's, the lawyer's, behavior. So the next call was to Palm Springs PD. And I get to the detective, and first it's he'll call you back, and I'm like, oh no, now. And so then I get him now, and then it's can you come in tomorrow? And I'm like, I will put everything in my trunk, and I'm on my way. Right. And about a 4-hour drive from Vegas. So I drove down and ended up in that white picket, the white the white room you see in like the first 48.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Yes, I know
and
exactly.
I put everything that they had left in my house. I had in the boxes, and it was up
Right.
in the attic.
Good for you.
And I needed, but I also wanted that juju out of my house. So I was kind of happy to get rid of it. And I know that CSI and all that crap isn't real in the TV show world, but I'm sure that there is stuff in here that they can use. I've gone through it all, but I don't know. And so, unbeknownst to me, there were other things that were going on at the same time. So, gosh, there's a lot of branches that are going on, but they thank me, and I go, I go about my merry business, and I'm happy, like, okay, I've done something. And now it's just sit and wait, like I've been doing for the last couple of years. And a week later, I get a phone call, and they say, "Hey, Tyson, we want to thank you for coming in, and we want to let you know we've arrested everybody but your friend Danny." And I'm like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I said, I said, well, if Danny knows that you're looking for him, he's in Mexico.
He's gone. Yeah.
He's gone. And they're like, well, actually, we're seeing some activity in Sacramento. And I mean, I probably jumped out of my pants because I'm like, I know where he is. I know where he is.
Yeah.
So I said, if you can find, he's got a little hacker friend that he is also part of the little group we hung out with, and his name is Alex Shabazian, and he is, we called him Brain, was his nickname, because this guy was so smart, and he was a hacker. So a few days later, I get a call, and they're like, "Thank you, we got him." And that was my moment of that was my moment. So it's just, it's not, I have trouble saying that I cracked the case in the sense that there's also
stop it.
There's also some other parallel things that happened. There was but they also told me that, hey, we also want to let you know that this has moved from a missing person case to a homicide case, and that you'll learn more in the podcast. There was a parallel to this, and while I was also calling, and the reason I was put in the white room as a suspect was because at the same time the detectives had discovered that Cliff Lambert, Mr. Lambert's house was also in the middle of being sold. And so and at the same time, the neighbors across the street called in and said a U-Haul had pulled up and things were being moved out of the house. And so one of the gentlemen who was being moved, or who was helping, who was in charge of the move, they had the detectives, raced over their code 3, and all the movers ran and scattered, and he was there, happened to have the keys to the house, and also happened to have a hotel key. And when they checked the Motel 6 there in Palm Springs, and they did it under exigent circumstances, thought maybe Mr. Lambert was in the motel room, found all of his valuables in that motel room, and then quickly placed this gentleman under arrest. And I don't want to. I feel like I'm spoiling the story. Like there's so much more.
No, I think, and that's honestly why a podcast is so helpful when it comes to something like this, because there's so many players. And look, I've been there with these crime stories. I guess fortunately I just haven't lived it to have to, to go through it this way. But I've been there where there's so many names, so many situations. It's so tough. It's so layered. But I mean, you've done a fantastic job and laying out the basics for us. And it makes me want to go binge the podcast right now, because I haven't done that yet. So I'm grateful that you haven't told us everything. I'm very grateful. But you cracked the case, because if you would have walked away, do you know how many more victims there would have been? Do you know this would still be going on? It's awful. So you should really applaud yourself, Tyson. Don't be so humble.
Well, I also, there's the part of me that also beats myself up a little bit, even though I shouldn't, but when we originally wrote a book on this called Until Someone Gets Hurt, because when the detectives, I was pounding the detectives in Vegas to still do something, and finally I got to my third detective, and he said, "Look, Tyson, this is a case of white collar crime. Everybody was made whole, and we just don't have the manpower, to deal with it. We go after cases where there are injuries. So until someone gets hurt, these guys are just going to continue to do it." And that really bothered me, and that stuck. And as we were sort of dictating what we were going to write for the book, that line stuck out. No,
it's an awful thing, because you're like, okay, let me wait till someone dies and then will you help? Like, it's not cool. It's I understand. Again, it's very nuanced, but that's what it sounds like to me. Wait till someone dies, then we'll step in.
And that I still have a problem with that, and that's kind of my crusade here, right? Is that it shouldn't have to wait until someone gets hurt. Like,
no.
I mean, can't we really do something about these financial crimes that are they're not victimless? And in the sense that when they say that it's that you're made whole, well, okay, so I'm made whole by an insurance policy. Well, that insurance policy, if I'm not mistaken, is the FDIC, and the F in that FDIC is us, right? Mm-hmm. It's federal, right? Or if it's the a credit card, well, that's us when we're paying 30% interest on our credit cards, or we're paying $50 late fees and things like all these fees that we still end up paying for it, and that's a problem.
Definitely. No, definitely. I mean, you are doing some great work. I applaud you, especially because you're not finished here. So, where can people find you if they want to follow you? Where can they find your podcast?
So the podcast is on every platform. So it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, RSS feeds. It's if you search for American Hustler. I'm going to put
a link in the episode notes anyway. I just wanted you to say it, but yeah. And then where can they find you on social media?
On social media, it's Tyson Wrensch on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but I'm not as Facebooky. But Instagram is my jam. So,
okay, got it. Tyson Wrensch on Instagram and Twitter too, I think.
Yeah, and note there's that little extra S in my name. So
yes, everybody can see it right there. I spelled it right, and I had spelled it wrong before. Well, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story with me. I appreciate you taking the time, and I will definitely.
It's not over. The story isn't over yet.
That's what's so crazy, and I can't wait to binge the show, and it's going to be great to get these updates in real time as well.
Yep. And my other hope is that not only changing these laws and the way that law enforcement behaves, but for the viewers and the listeners, is pay attention to these cons, because everybody that was taken here were smart people. And generally, it is smart people that are victims, because they tend to think that they can't be taken. Also, my other piece of advice is if you ever have there's one victim in this story who was worth 9 figures. He had $100 million value. He was framed and ended up dying in jail for something that he didn't do. And I interviewed him twice in jail, and the last thing he said to me, I asked him if he could go back and change anything. He said that he would have never told anybody how much money he had. And if I can impart that wisdom on anybody, is don't ever share your net worth with anybody. Don't ever, if you are in Vegas and you win a jackpot, don't post it online. Keep your money, keep your lottery ticket to yourself. Just keep your finances to yourself. Don't go flashy on social media, because you're just going to make yourself a target. It's just
That's really
not a
good advice. No, that's really good advice. And I think, it sounds like, okay, yeah, we got it. But people need to be reminded of that for sure.
And it's
100%.
only going to get worse. The scams are only going to get worse. I mean, if you look at the numbers, Americans lose more and more every year, and we're not learning. We're not learning. And with AI coming out, it's only they're getting better at it.
Yeah.
So we need to get smarter.
Agreed. And tell your kids, tell your teens as well, because that's also really important. All right, Tyson Wrench, thank you so much. Everybody run, don't walk, and go listen to American Hustlers. Thank you so much.
Clear your calendars. You're going to need you're not going to be able to stop.
Love it. Thanks again.